morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And welcome to our next session within the webinar series, The Multifaceted Path to Sustainability. On behalf of STARS Foundation, we hope that you will enjoy this webinar. Today's topic is about traditional knowledge. But before I tell you all about that, the topic I'm very excited about, let me introduce myself first before I introduce our today's guest. My name is Gordana Kirans. I'll be your host today. And I am a managing partner at consultancy MGT Open. I am a former professor of international business, and I represent the STARS Foundation within the Southeastern Europe chapter. Our today's guest is a well-known researcher in the field of traditional knowledge, our today's focus. As you will see, the list is so long, we will need quite a bit of our session for that. Professor Lun YIN is professor at the School of Geography and Ecotourism, Southwest Forestry University in China. Research Fellow of the Southwest Research Center for Eco-Civilization, National Forestry and Grassland Administration. He is also Research Fellow of the Center for Ecological Civilization think tank in Yunnan, Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, Director of Center for Biodiversity and Indigenous Knowledge. He is also founder and director of the Climate Action SDG Laboratory and ethno-ecologist of Bai ethnic minority background in Kunming, Yunnan province of China. Lun is also the Indigenous and Traditional Knowledge Consultant of Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. Senior expert in Indigenous Knowledge of United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. Professor Lun YIN, a very warm welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jordana, and thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to join this event. Yeah.
Audience, you know, those of you who have already attended this webinar series, you know, get your questions ready. We have only 30 minutes, and I will start with my own questions, but as soon as you are ready, I will read your questions to Professor Lun YIN. In the meantime, while the audience is getting in and getting ready for our today's topic, I have a question of my own. Lun, I will call you Lun.
Yeah.
You are an expert in the traditional knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Some refer to this topic as indigenous knowledge, like I read in your profile. What is the difference?
I think there are two levels. In the academic research level, we use the term usually like traditional knowledge, traditional ecological knowledge, indigenous knowledge, local knowledge. And I think in academic level, it depends the scholars, the word, the term they prefer. And it's not very different. I think the basic information is the same, but it depends the academic. But in the international level, especially the international convention level, there's different. Lot of developing country like China, like India, they don't recognize indigenous this word because for this country, they don't recognize indigenous people. They think all the people is indigenous. Like America, like Australia, like Canada, they think before the European people come to colonize the land, the country, the people they are indigenous. So compare with European people. So in the international treaty level, why we use the indigenous people and the local community is for this reason. So there's two.
Yeah, the First Nations, Canadians call them First Nations.
Yeah, First Nation, indigenous people, Aborigines.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. In your research, Lun, you spent a lot of time in the field, really literally in the field. studying the centuries-old agrarian communities in the Yunnan province. What changes have you observed within these communities lately?
Because my research is focused on the traditional knowledge which link the biodiversity. So we distinguish this knowledge as 5 levels. First is traditional livelihood. Second is traditional believing, the custom law. The third is traditional medicine, the technique. The fourth one is a local technique for the sustainable livelihood, like pastoralism, like nomadic, like agriculture. The last one is the local product. As you have visited Yunnan, you know our local product famous is the pu'er tea. Pu'er tea is some local product. So this kind of knowledge in the context of climate change, so I observed that climate change has influenced the traditional knowledge very deeply and very observantly. You can see because of the climate change, the calendar of agriculture, the calendar of agropastoralism has changed. And also you can see because the climate disaster, like the drought, like the flood, and the local people has changed the seed of agriculture, changed the animal husbandry to face this kind of challenge. So this is climate change. Of course, they also face the social change. The social change because during today, the Yunnan, the tourism is developed very quickly, and a lot of tourists come to Yunnan, so they brought the concept of outside and the lifestyle of outside. So they also influence local people. So this two kind of change caused the local traditional knowledge has a big change during today. So we should face this kind of course, this change has two-sided influence. One is positive and one is negative. And we should face the challenge, the problem from the negative. For example, Yunnan is very rich for the traditional seed of agriculture. In the history, especially in Xishuangbanna, we have in Jino Mountain an ethnic group called Jino people. They have 100 different seeds of rice. But today, we just have 50. So almost half the traditional seed we lost. Why? Because one reason is climate change. Because of climate change, we must select the seeds that can withstand the drought, the dry. Another reason is the rubber plantation. A lot of land has planted the rubber, so we must give up the traditional seed of agriculture and plant rubber. Of course, it's not must because the rubber plantation can get the income, can get the income directly compared with the traditional agriculture. So this is a kind of social change we must face.
The traditional knowledge and this adaptation of traditional people to the climate change has been studied lately very intensely, as you know, by academics, but there's also an increased interest by companies. The STARS Foundation, the STARS is a corporate network, and we'll now turn to more the corporate question. How can companies actually profit from this knowledge? How can companies work with traditional communities better to kind of learn from this and implement this within their product portfolio or in other areas?
Yes, already a lot of different company attracted by the traditional knowledge. And also personally, I also cooperate with some Chinese company and French company to focus on the traditional knowledge link with biodiversity. I think there are four kind of company. They are very interesting with the traditional knowledge associated with biodiversity. First is the biopharmaceutical company. Second is the cosmetic company, I think, like perfume, etc. The third one is agriculture, plus resource company. Usually they like to get the traditional seed of agriculture, etc. The last one is a biotechnology company. This four company has already deeply involved with the traditional knowledge in the biodiversity hotspot. When they get the resource, this is the first level. Second level, they should know how to use this resource, plant resource or genetic resource, how to use this plant genetic resource. So they should know the traditional knowledge, local people traditional knowledge. So especially the cosmetic company in Yunnan, I think a lot of perfume company from France, and they use the flower, Yunnan flowers, and different kind of flowers to produce the perfume, etc. The products. So they have already deeply recognized this traditional knowledge, these companies.
Fascinating.
And, yeah.
Sorry, you wanted to continue?
I think for your second question, I think you have how to build up the relationship between company and the traditional knowledge. This is also my work focus. And as you know, a term, I don't know, do you know a term? The term is biopiracy. Biopiracy. That means that when this kind of company, when they go to the indigenous people's place or local people's place, they get the plant or genetic resources. And also they get the local knowledge, they get the indigenous knowledge. And then they have their products. They go to the laboratory to analyze the genetic resource and to analyze this traditional knowledge. So they found, oh, this one can good for the perfume, this one can good for another product. But they don't recognize the authority of this knowledge. They don't recognize the ownership of this knowledge. So when they don't recognize the ownership of the indigenous people or local people to the knowledge, to the traditional knowledge, the action is biopiracy.
You talk about that in you and your co-authors talk about that in the book, your Old Ways for New Days, quite a bit about this. We academics would call it plagiarism, but as you said, it's a biopiracy, because the ideas or this centuries-old knowledge is literally stolen and not accredited. So what is the first step for companies to avoid that in the future?
I think there are two levels. We already have the rules. In the local level, when the company go to the field, when they want to investigate the local resource, genetic resource, plant resource, or animal resource, anyway, they should have a prior informed consent, PIC, to let the local people know what they will do and get the permission. So this is before the company go to the field, go to the indigenous people, use their knowledge. The second is the access and benefit showing, like the company I cooperate is a perfume company. So they use the local flower resources and they access the resources. And they have the product and they sell to the market. So that means they have the benefit. And this company come back to Yunnan to build a foundation to show the benefit with the local people, local indigenous people. Because the company use their resource, use their knowledge, and they have get a benefit. So later they come back to the local people and show their benefit. So this is the second rule. We call it ABS, access and benefit sharing, not ABS in the car, but access and benefit sharing. This is a local level. In the international level, especially the Convention Biodiversity CBD by the UN. In the CBD, we have set up this mechanism. The mechanism called the Global Multilateral Benefit Sharing Mechanism, GMBSM. So in this mechanism, the CBD call all the stakeholders, which the company and the government and the local community, they show their benefit together, the benefit from biodiversity, from genetic resource, from traditional knowledge. So based on this mechanism, they should show the benefit with the local community. So that's two levels. I think this is a guidelines for the company when in the future they go to the indigenous people or local community.
Very good, thank you. Sorry. An invitation stays for the audience to join in with your questions. We have about just over 10 minutes, so please do pose your questions. In the meantime, I will continue with my own. You mentioned some European companies. Are Chinese companies showing interest in their own thousands of years old traditional knowledge?
Yes, there's a very famous company called Plant Doctor. It's a very famous Chinese cosmetic company. And they directly cooperate with Kunming Botany Institute, Kunming Institute of Botany. And they do the field work in the ethnic minority area, like Nashi people, Bai people, to investigate how the local people use their plant resource, what kind of knowledge they have. And when they're back to the laboratory and they analyze the flowers, the root of the plant, and also the traditional knowledge. And today, there are a series of products about perfume, facial mask, skin cream, etc. And also, when they are very successful in Chinese market, they sell a lot of product to the women, especially. And then now, after they built a foundation to the community to show the benefit with the local villagers and local people, I think this is a good example. First, they have interesting with the knowledge. Second, they use the knowledge, and then they have benefit sharing system with local people. Yeah.
The traditional or indigenous knowledge is thousands and thousands of years old. If you look at Aboriginal people of Australia, some First Nations of Canada, United States, when we look at Colombia, other South American tribes, but sometimes they don't even have a written language, even today. So how do we respect a knowledge that is so old and so deeply rooted within the biodiversity? How do we bridge the gap between, because we academics, of course, have a clear framework how we do research. How do we bridge these two worlds?
I think at this point, we may need to interpret or view culture from different perspective, different way. because culture is diverse and biodiversity is directly linked with cultural diversity. Today, we see the hotspot of biodiversity in the world. I think it's a 36 hotspot of biodiversity. They are also the place of cultural diversity. And some culture that do not have written record, they do not have writing, but they are still passed generation by generations. They're passed generation by generation by the legend, the epics, the songs, and other means. So written record is just one means for the culture. And this is also recognized by the CBD. In CBD, in these UN conventions, they think the traditional knowledge, including the culture, expect the written form. They're also passed by generation by the oral form. Like they can pass through the story, the songs, the poem, and the culture, other value, belief, ritual, custom, law, etc. They have different things, different means to transfer this culture, this diverse culture. Especially the local language is very important. So I think we should have for this different perspective to the culture. Culture is not just one; they have different ways. Yeah.
We have two questions from the audience. Third one coming in. Are there examples of cooperation between corporates and traditional knowledge in ancient grains and food and beverages? So grains, food, and beverages. Are there cooperation examples between corporates and traditional people?
Between traditional Asian grains and food. Yes, yes, of course. There are already some example that the corporate, especially agricultural corporate, that investigate the beans of China, that collect different kind of beans of China, and they go to the laboratory and they analyze, and then they have a new bean, or not. I mean, not really new bean, but they have their product, and they throw back to India, to China. So then they ask to pay the tax. So this is another kind of biopiracy. They use the local knowledge, they use the local resource, they just back to the laboratory, they analyze, and then they have a new product, and they throw back to the India, like China, and they ask to pay the tax or pay the fee. Because why? Because in the today's system, this kind of knowledge is not belong to the local people, but it came from local people, but it's not belong the local peoples. So that is a conflict. There's a conflict between the company and the local community. I think based on CBD, also we must face this kind of challenge.
Thank you, Alvin, for your question. We are now going to next question. Is it a big challenge to safeguard the local traditional knowledge when the population is increasing and many different cultures are entering China? How does China deal with this? Thank you, Natasha.
Yes, of course. That's a challenge because we face the climate change, we face the biodiversity loss, and also we face the development of industry, the development of the city. So there's a lot of challenge. Especially China is very diverse, the culture, different part, as you have visited different part of China. So we have a lot of challenge from social side, from the nature side. And today we have is the environment and the ecosystem Minister of Environment and Ecosystem. They just launched a new rules, and you can call it a law to protect the traditional knowledge. The law is about the traditional knowledge related, or the traditional knowledge associated with biodiversity, investigation and documentation and utilization. The name of this law is like this. So in this official law, we distinguish traditional knowledge as different part. And we should investigate it. China has 56 ethnic minorities. So we have to investigate and document all the traditional knowledge of different ethnic groups. Personally, I'm responsible for six ethnic minority people in Yunnan. So our work is investigate the knowledge and discover the values and build a database to the knowledge. This database is built by the central government. So this is a way that China deal with this traditional knowledge. Mm-hmm.
Very nice, very nice. We have one more question. Sustainability in the sense of the triple bottom line, economic, social, and ecological, is a predominant expectation towards companies nowadays. Mm-hmm. How would you see this expectation in China towards Chinese companies? And how could traditional knowledge in sustainability provide some guidelines for Chinese companies to make sustainability put into practice? Thank you, Marcus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the traditional knowledge give us wisdom to face the challenge, to face the change, because the traditional knowledge has a long history. Since the traditional society born, they have generation by generation, they built up this kind of knowledge. So what company could get the wisdom from the traditional knowledge? I think first is the view of sustainability. Why the traditional can pass generation by generations? So this is what we should learn for it. The second we should learn is diverse. Traditional knowledge is diverse opinion. They have different, not just one value. They have different value, different opinion. So face is a changing world. So the diverse option also is we can learn from the traditional knowledge. And today because we cooperate some companies based on mostly is a biotechnic company and a cosmetic company, and basically they learn a lot from traditional knowledge. They get their product is directly from the local resources, local knowledge, and they have their product just like the plant doctor. They are very successful. So that's what they get basically from the traditional knowledge. And more deeply, I think when they learn this knowledge, they should know the value of this traditional knowledge. The traditional knowledge, how to deal the relationship between human and the nature, human and the society. They have the custom law, they have their value, they have their cosmology, etc. This kind of things, I think, is also good for the company, for the Chinese company, also for the other countries' company. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe the first step is always simply respect. Start with respect.
Yeah.
And bring it and take it from there, step by step. We are at the end of our 30 minutes scheduled for today. That has been very insightful, Lun. Our audience might want to connect with you. What is the best way to reach out to you? I believe you are on LinkedIn.
I have LinkedIn, I have Facebook, also I have Twitter. Later you can show to them my email box also.
Okay, so if anybody wants to reach via email, of course, we will introduce you to Lun. Thank you very, very much for sharing your insights and your long research results and observations in the field of the beautiful Yunnan province with us. I highly recommend, as Lun mentioned, Yunnan is a very diverse province. Of the 56 minorities in China, 52 live in the Yunnan province. Hence, it's a very, from the landscape point of view, beautiful place and filled with wonderful people.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope that you enjoyed. Thank you, Lun, so much. Thank you, audience, for your questions. Thank you for joining us today. In December, we will look at the topic of liquidity. So join us again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.